Hi, welcome. How are you today?
Hello.
Hi. Thanks so much for being there. So today is a very special day because we have Pete. Hey, Pete. So, but before we start, just three things that I want to tell you. First thing is, please take care. We have a code of contact, so you have to have this in mind. And the second thing is, please read our blog post about Black Lives Matter. This is important because we support that. And the third thing is, we're going to have a very nice talk from Pete. We call him also the voice. You will see why. He's a very good friend of us and with us for years now, and we're very happy that he's there. So I just do a small introduction. Ina is going to do the big introduction for him. Thanks so much for being there. Enjoy the talk. Pete, thanks so much. Enjoy the people. Okay, thanks. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Pepe. Thanks. I'm throwing you out right now.
Boy.
There he goes. So, hey everyone. Hope you're doing okay and fine in these crazy times. So just a quick reminder why we are doing this. As you all know, all events or most events had to be postponed or canceled for next year, including our Agile Testing Days USA. And we thought, why not use the time in the meantime to, still connect, spread some knowledge, and still give people the chance to speak, to listen, and like I said before, to network. So that's why we came up with the AgileTD free webinar series, and we really hope all of you enjoy this. We try to do this every 2 weeks or every 3 weeks, depending. And I really hope you all like this a lot. So before we actually go into the whole webinar, I want to give you a quick run through this Crowdcast, through this tool, in case you don't know what this is about. So as you already have seen, probably on the right-hand side, you will find the chat. And my colleague Clara is there, and she will post links that are important, like, for example, our code of conduct and other things that will come up during the webinar. You can yourself also post things that you want to share that have something to do with a topic or that comes up in the chat. Also, you can just use the chat to chat. The best thing is always to see where people are from. So please just put in the country of origin or where you're tuning in from, the couch, the bathtub, wherever. Always nice to know. So that's for the chat. If you do have a question, however, you please go to the middle of the screen. On the bottom, you will find the Ask a Question box. And you can go in and just post a question yourself, or if your question has already been posted in there, you can just vote for it. At the end of the webinar, I will go back into the whole Crowdcast here and ask the most valued questions that have been, that have the most numbers. So that's for that. And also, very important, the replay will be available right after the session has stopped. So as soon as you have a Crowdcast account, which you do, of course, because you're in here, you can just go back anytime and watch the video. Also, we will put it up on our YouTube channel, so there is nothing to be missed. Next, I want to just say thank you to our today's sponsor, which is X-Ray. They were so kind and still stick with us throughout this crazy days, and we're very happy to have them for the next Agile Testing Days USA conference next year. So thanks again, X-Ray, for sticking with us, for trusting with us. That's for them. Now to Pete. Pete. Pete, he is also one of our AgileTD and AgileTD USA speakers and veterans, so to speak. He's been in the industry for over 25 years, a long time, and he has been in very different roles in the meantime. He's been a developer, a project manager, a tester, of course. He's still a Scrum Master, Agile coach, and so on. And through this time, he has developed an attitude of do whatever makes sense. And he calls himself now a quality advocate. So that's that's to Pete. He also runs a testing meetup in Grand Rapids, which you should check out. And also he is a very active blogger. And he is writing on Rhythm of Testing. That's the name of the blog on Blogspot. We will share the link later in the chat as well. So go check it out. Also, besides another tester I know from Middle Earth itself, Pete also loves everything that Tolkien wrote. And he likes to draw some comparison between the fellowship's journey and the journey of the testers in today's world. And I think that's a very nice way to put it. He's also a drummer and definitely on the list for our AgileTD session band, which will come today. So I hope you're in because I heard you're a very good drummer, so you have to get in there. And also he's hosting the mentoring corner for the Agile Testing Days USA and actually gives people advice on their journey and their very individual journey. So thanks so much, Pete, for everything that you did already for us in the past and for the community, and we very much appreciate that. And also for your time now. So now I would just like to give the stage to Pete. I hope you all enjoy it, and please ask questions whenever there are any. So Pete, we'll talk later. The stage is yours. And thanks again so much.
Okay, thank you, Ina. Thank you, Pepe, and Huib, just be quiet. That was rude, wasn't it? I'm sorry. I failed to read the code of conduct. All right. So I was asked once upon a time about if I could help out a little bit. And it's like, I would love to help out. And the question came up, okay, so you wrote recently about value in testing and value of software testers. And we'd like you to talk about that a little bit. And so here we are. That's kind of what I'm working on right now, is talking about that, about the value that we have in testing as testers. And before I officially begin, I was told once upon a time that if I share cute pictures of cute animals and things, people will find my talks much more approachable, particularly since I don't have any cute or interesting Tolkien references or Harry Potter references in the talk. I'm going with the furry friends who have or are currently living with us. We've got Pumpkin in the top corner here. There's Pumpkin, and in the middle of the top row is Violet, who moved in with us when she was a day old, and in the other corner is Mr. Gray staring at us with green alien laser eyes. On top of the refrigerator, hiding behind the plant, is Clover, also with laser eyes, trying to train them on me. And of course, in the corner next to that, looking very happy in spite of all the cats, is Poppy. Poppy adopted us about 4 years ago. Anyway, so enough of that. So much for me being approachable. People come in and ask questions like, what do software testers do? What is it that why do we have testers? Why do we need them? And depending on where you work, depending on the organization you're in the background, the answers will tend to be a variety of things. Things like testers find bugs, testers verify conformance to requirements, they validate functions and functionality, and testers improve quality. And then the big one, today's topic, software testers add value, which may or may not be accurate. I'd like to think that that's accurate, but you never know. Because when we say value, what does that mean? I know the experts, the pundits all tell us that we must add value, that we must do things, but what really does that mean? How is it that testers add value? Because if you're like me, hi, Lisa. If you're like me, what you get is somebody standing up on a stage and saying, remember, you must always add value. But then there isn't a whole lot of information around what that means. How do we do that? So I'm going to try and talk about that a little bit, because in here I think is part of the issue. If we're using formally documented test scripts, typically those are tied to requirements. We've got orchestrated scenarios, and we've got really, really well-defined expected results. For a lot of people in this world, they'll that's testing. That's it. That's what people are focused on, the scripts. And they're easy to manage. They're easy to lock onto. And they're easy for things to be approachable. And of course, there's all the things, well, we can use the scripts to go and train people how to use the software. It's like, well, that's another story. We can talk about that in a minute. But if we're using scripts to do testing, and we're using testers to validate function, typically we're using testers to validate functions by following scripts, and the instructions are that we must follow them very, very carefully to make sure everything works, right? And that's awesome. But if you're like a lot of people that I work with, and a lot of people that I've sat down and tried to do things with, and even me early in my testing career, you've got scripts that are laid out, and they are expressing very specific things, and we've got go to the screen, do this, enter these values, here are the expected results. The more detailed they are, the less helpful I find in the long run. Why? Because people tend to do things that are a little bit on the crazy side, because they'll look precisely at what they're being told to look at. And they're going to be so focused on what's in front of them that they're not looking around them. They've lost the idea of situational awareness. And so what happens if we open up the scripts? If we loosen them up a little bit, we make them a little bit more variably based, we make them a little bit more open to interpretation, we take away the expected results, ask them to go and describe what did they see, that might help, except for one minor little thing. It makes it really hard to report. It makes it hard to track time. It makes it hard to come up with good, solid time estimates. And this is a true story. A recent client of mine engagement where I was working, trying to help them improve testing, they actually counted the number of steps that were executed each day. And by having an average of steps executed, they could come up with a solution. And this is how they're going to go and do this. And this is the world. This is the perfect way for them to measure and to forecast and to model. And if we take that tool away, if we make the scripts less rigid, that availability isn't there. And that becomes a change in how people function and how people look at the world. And then we get other things. Really hard questions. Do those scripts that are so fixed, that are so locked in, do they work? Do they do what we think that they're doing? How about the open ones? The variable scripts, the ones that are going through like a checklist, less rigid than a punch card where you're going, okay, do this, and then go to this screen, then enter this value into this field and click this button. Less rigid than that, but more open-ended. Do those work? And the answer to that is, in some contexts, they do, to both of those. Depending on what you're trying to do, depending on the needs that you're trying to address, those can work. I don't recommend them universally. And that sets up the next question. Does anything really work? And my answer to that is, what if we just totally do something radical? Okay, maybe not have demonstrations in the street where the police get called and okay, I'll stop there. But What if instead of doing things that people are thinking is the natural order of things, what if we mix that up? What if we come in and say, all right, we're going to go and change things? What if we don't actually look for bugs? What if we don't try and validate the requirements? We don't explicitly do those things. What if we don't use a predefined test plan? What if we reject all the truisms, all the stuff that the pundits tell us that we're supposed to do, like add value? What if we reject all the buzzwords? Throw them away. Can we do that? It's possible. And by what I mean by that is, what if we do look to see how the software behaves? What if we look for limits within the software's behavior so that we're coming in saying, okay, if we do this, we do X, Y, and Z, what happens after that? Can we possibly find something that behaves appropriately based on that? Does the software do what we reasonably would think it would do? I'm not worried about what the requirements say. To put it more broadly, what if we look for the characteristics within the software's behavior? We go through, we look at how the software acts. We look at how software is engaged. And then we compare what we find against all the emails that were exchanged, all the notes, all the meeting notes, all the discussions. Because even if you're in an agile environment, that doesn't mean that you don't have notes. It's just they don't need to be as rigidly applied. You probably need them. I've never worked in a shop that didn't have any documentation that was anywhere near successful. There needs to be something to say, yes, this is what we said. What if we compare the results of us exercising the software against what those emails and development notes said the software should be doing? Here's one of my favorites. What if we compare our findings against the documentation that has actually been published, maybe for prior releases, or what just got sent to the print shop, or that is being pulled together if you don't have printed documentation to be included in with the product itself, or it's going to be published out on the FAQs or something. The documentation that is available that we're giving to the customers to say, this is how our software behaves. Here's everything you need to know. And here's the hard one. What if we compare our findings against the original request or the original description for the problem? Why are we making this software? Why are we doing this software? Why does this piece of software exist? What are we doing this change for? Those are all questions that we need to be able to ask, that we need to be able to look at. If we don't know what we're doing, why are we doing it? Those things, those requests, that problem description, the need that we're trying to fill, we can compare what we found against that original need. And part of this goes back to what I think about software testing, because I've been talking about testing, but I never actually broke down and told you how I define testing. In my mind, testing is a carefully structured evaluation of the behavior of a piece of software based on a given model. Models can change depending on what we're trying to do. We could be helping developers do unit tests. We could be looking at security issues. We could be looking for open-ended behaviors. We could be looking at stress, at performance, at load. We could be looking for compliance to regulations. We could be looking for medical or financial compliance. If we're doing electronic payments of any sort, using electronic payments, are we PCI compliant? Do we have any of the things that we need to do so that we can do this? Those are all the models that we're using. Do those models comply with what it is that we're trying to do? How do our results of what we find when using those models compare against these things? That, for a lot of organizations, that's something radical. And when we do something radical like that, we can bring awareness of the reality of the software to the development teams that we're supporting. It doesn't matter if we're an external body to the development teams or if we're embedded within them. If we're embedded within them, I find it tends to be easier. We can bring awareness of what we have found. We can grab whoever down the hall or on the team, or ping them over Hangouts or whatever your video chat tool is, your instant messenger, and say, hey, I think I found something. Can we talk about this? Can we do a quick screen share? We show them what it is that we're finding. We show them the behavior that we see. Importantly, we can then bring awareness of the state of the software to team leadership, software development leadership, and the organizational leadership. This is what we found. This is how the software behaves. These are the issues that we think there might be. These are the open areas that are unknown. These are all things that we can do. This is the behavior. When we focus on the behavior, we're taking away the question of bugs. We're taking away the question of requirements. This is the behavior. This is what we said it does. This is what we can do. We can clarify ideas and information that is not clear to people now. They will believe what they will believe, but that is only based on their own individual perceptions, and the rest of it is going to be a little bit murky. We can turn in and say, this is what we have found. Here's how we found it. The murky areas need to be lit up. They need to be illuminated. If we do that and do that carefully, we can bring truth and fact to the development teams, to the organizational leadership, to the company leadership. And that, ideally, in my mind, is what software testing does. That is what good software testing does. And that is what good software testers do. And you combine those things, and that is the value in testing. And that is the value in software testers. That is the actual end of the official slide deck. I tried to save as much time for discussion as I could. I want to thank Agile Testing Days, Agile Testing Days USA, Trendig, X-Ray, who's helping to support Agile Testing Days USA, and everyone else who's engaged. I'm bouncing over here. Where am I? Okay, good. My screen is still there. My contact information is up. It is up. There's an email up there. My Twitter handle is there. LinkedIn, you can find me there. They already mentioned my blog. I saw it in the saw that in the chat. And so with that, let's talk.
Mm-hmm. So this. Hello. Oh no, I'm big. I don't want to be big. Thanks, Pete, for your talk. I'm just gonna throw out the presentation now, if that's okay for you.
You're going to throw it out? Oh, okay, sure.
No. I mean, I think everything's. And I think if it's okay for you, Pete, would you be able to share the presentation with us so that
I'd be happy to. I would
Great.
be very happy to.
All right, then I will send out an email. Everybody that's been here, after this session has stopped, and you will get the slide deck in there as well,
Okay.
and the link to the YouTube video. So thanks so much, Pete, first of all, for preparing this, for your time, for making the point. That was very clear. In big letters in red. Yeah, great making points in that way. And so I'm just going to move on to the questions. People, so if you have any questions, please write them down in the Ask a Question box. We have 2 questions so far. So if there's anything else you want to know from Pete, how testers might achieve what he has called value in testing and becoming a good software tester, please just go ahead and ask. And I'm just going to go in there and check out. Oh, okay. So 2 questions have been asked and both have got the same votes. So both seem to be valued high. So the first one is actually from Jose himself. And I'm just going to read it out. So why people who do not give testing the value it has and run into massive problems with the project get promoted after it?
That is a very good question.
Yeah.
And I think that is actually worth considering. I'm stopping sharing there. Just realized I was still sharing my screen, but I don't think it was being projected. Okay. That's a really good question, Jose. That relates, I think, to several things. First is we have made, over the course of the last many years, there has been a dichotomy introduced within creating software, within making software, a dichotomy between people who develop software and people who test software. And a lot of managers are coming from a lot of leaders are coming from the development side up. And they're going to approach things as this is what's good. This is what is. This is what I know. And they're going to tend to reward the things that they know. Does that mean that's right? I don't know. I don't think it is. But if the project gets delivered, as long as there's somebody that you can point to and say there were problems, and because of the problems we had these things happen. In my experience, and this is only my experience, the people that get pointed to are the testers. And in Agile, I was in an Agile shop, ideally a well-run ad shop that is actually Agile, as opposed to goes through the motions, has the rituals, does the ceremonies, and slaps labels on things, but they're not Agile. They don't do anything embracing the principles behind the Agile Manifesto, and they are simply going using the current buzzwords because Agile is cool now. In a true Agile environment, testers and developers are embedded shoulder to shoulder, side by side, working together, making good products. In the make-believe Agile world, I don't think that's what most people try and do. I think there's still a perception of we'll make software we'll do all this stuff. We've got stuff we're going to make. We've got the requirements. We've got the design. We've got all this. We're going to write the code. Good. We're done. Hand it off. It gets tested. If there's a problem, it's not our fault. We'll deal with it later. And in some ways, the fake agile comes into play when you have things like, okay, we've got a significant problem. Great. Write it up as a story. We'll deal with it in the next sprint or 2 sprints down. We'll add it to the backlog. If you have a problem that you find in testing what was done in that sprint, you have a vulnerability that shakes the capacity of that sprint's product to be released at the end of the sprint. If you're doing Scrum, you really need to be thinking about delivering a viable product each sprint, however long you define each sprint. And a lot of people don't. Now, people who don't value testing see it as an extra, see it as something that is not part of what they do. They see testing as something done by somebody else. And I'm just saying, Stefan chiming in, yes. I talk about programmers as well, but a lot of people go, I'm more than a programmer. It's like, get over yourself. Because everybody who contributes to making software is contributing to software development. Most organizations, though, look at this as the job title says something about developer or software engineer. And so I'm trying to be very precise, even though you're right, Stefan, that the stuff is more vague. But looking at it is, this is the work that I see, this is the work that I understand, this is why we're going to do this. We're going to make sure that this stuff gets rewarded, and the stuff that I don't understand doesn't. That's a very long, rambling answer, but I think that's the crux of it, is that people don't understand what it takes, and the result is that if there's any blame to be shared, it gets put on the other. And for in software development, as an entity, for most organizations, testers are the other.
Mm-hmm. So the team approach is missing.
There is no team approach.
There is no team approach.
The idea of everyone owning quality for most of them means testers.
Yeah. Thanks, Pete. Speaking of the team approach, just came to my mind that the next webinar we'll have is with the fabulous Janet Gregory and Lisa Crispin. I think both are here watching too, and I'm sure that they're going to add something to the whole team approach and testing. That just came up in my mind. So now, again, let's see what the other questions are doing. A few are coming in right now. So the next on top is also from Stefan, by the way. Do we need to compare against the original requirements? We even contribute to the definition of the requirements itself and make them quality? Good question.
Yes, I agree. In a perfect world, that is precisely what happens. Unfortunately, I've seen a lot of shops that are not perfect. And in those shops, that's the question about why do we have testers? Why, that we don't need testers because everyone owns quality, so we're going to get rid of all the testers because the testing specialists are just overhead. In those same shops, we don't actually go back and compare notes. We don't have any idea about what we mean by a quality product. That might be a good topic for another paper, for another discussion. But the idea of contributing to defining requirements, yes, that is terribly important. In the fake agile world and other worlds, I see questions of the project manager or the product owner will deliver story cards. Here's the story. And you look at them and it's like a book. And then they go away. I've seen other people with 1 or 2 word stories. And they go, wait, what does this even mean? And it's a matter of several things. I'm trying to think of the right moment, but think of the right word. But the question is, does everybody go back and compare against the original requirements? I'd like to think so. We used to. Hi, Janet. Have another cup, quick. Do we contribute to the definition of the requirements? Most shops that are doing well, I think, do that. And yet, most shops that are doing that, most organizations, most teams, there isn't a question about the value of testers or the value of testing. In shops that are doing that, why do we have testers isn't a question that gets asked. Because they're contributing, they're helping the organization. Testers are making things better for everybody by asking uncomfortable questions. It doesn't necessarily mean that everybody's doing it. And unfortunately, I see a lot of companies not do it.
Okay, I hope that that serves Stefan. I'm not sure. Stefan, are you still there? If there's still from Stefan, then please just ask again or just use the chat if you have a comment on that. Then there's another question here, Pete, from Lisa. First of all, she has great talk, Pete. So, and she loves your ideas on how we can add value as testers. Then she's asking, what about helping teams show what value they can add with testing and the value of building in quality regardless of the role?
There's a reason why I really, really like Lisa. Yes. What happens if we go beyond the narrow definition of this person does this, this person does this, this person does this? If we have a true team environment, if we have people really contributing as equals in a multifunctional, cross-functional team. Hold on. There. If we really believe the stuff that's here, I'm sorry, this is my very simple printed one-page copy of the Agile Manifesto. If we really believe the stuff that's here, and I'm not even worried about the big stuff up here that everybody points at, it's this stuff, the principles. Those are the things where the questions are important. When everyone is contributing as an equal, we're back to the bad old days, at least in some people's minds. We're back to the days when job titles didn't matter, function didn't matter. Everybody sat down, rolled up their sleeves, and contributed. People who understood some things better than others may lead a given portion of the effort. They may, somebody who understands file structures or database structures would probably take the point on defining file structures, database structures, and relationships of that sort. People who are true experts in communication, networking issues may take the lead for that. People who understand other things within the development process may take the lead for those functions. But it is the importance of everyone being able to contribute. Not everyone can contribute equally all the time. But everyone should be able to contribute as an equal. And the idea of not worrying about what the job title is, not worrying what the role is, that is the first step in building quality if you're aware of what quality means for your organization. And I think for most organizations that don't have that concept, it becomes something that you do later. The idea of having quality up front is hard. And then I'll take off my American Society for Quality hat, and I'll go back to being a software person. We need to be able to contribute, everyone, all of us, because each of us have got different experiences. Each of us have got ideas that go beyond what our jobs, our job titles, everything else, everything that we can possibly have, that all defines everything. And we need to be able to understand that.
I think that's a great point. Alluding a little bit to everything that goes on right now. So, yeah.
Oh, I would never do that.
No. Okay, now just as I was clicking to get me on screen, Janet is actually having a question as well. So let's have a look at that. Pete, if you're ready. You mentioned.
Oh, hi, Janet. Yeah, call me out. Thanks. You know all those nice things that I said? Yeah, never mind.
Okay, so she's asking, you mentioned quality up front. Do you have a specific definition of quality? And do you distinguish between product quality and process quality?
Oh, where to begin? There are some ideas, I think, that are in there, and I expect most people on this webinar have heard some version or something along the lines of the late Jerry Weinberg, quality is value to some person. And then, of course, with the addendums from James Bach and I think Michael Bolton, who matters at some point in time. And for a lot of organizations, that makes sense. There is the Juran definition of quality, of adherence to requirements. I'm not entirely certain if that covers everything when it comes to software, because software is different than Juran's world. And I actually have, and glad that you asked, and I'm actually pulling it up because I want to make sure that I say it cleanly. If we're going to back up to what I talk about is testing. Software testing is a systematic evaluation of the behavior of software based on a model. I mentioned that during the actual talk. Quality. What is quality? People bandy that around. But what really is quality? If we combine some ideas, we get rid of, if we look at Crosby's quality is free, we look at Deming out of the crisis, Joseph Juran. The one thing that most people don't look at is a paper that was published in 1979, Introduction to Offline Quality Control. It was published by the Central Japan Quality Control Association. The primary author's name was Taguchi. I can't remember his first name just off the top of my head. But he had an interesting idea that quality is something different. That quality isn't testing. Quality is, no, I've lost my train of thought. Okay. Quality is, is nebulous, which is part of the reason why I'm struggling all of a sudden. I've got it written down. Hold on. Here we go. 1 minute. I actually saved it on purpose. And now I've lost it. I've lost my mind. If we take Joseph Duran's quality is fitness for purpose, and we add Taguchi's ideas of, and by using the product, it does no other unintended harm. We get quality is fitness for use, and you are not causing any other harm unintentionally by using the product as designed. In my mind, that sums up what quality is. It took me a second, but I knew that I had it back here in the Rolodex of my brain. And that is probably part of the issue that most people have. And to define what quality is, that's going to change. That's kind of an organizational level. I should clarify that for individual projects, for individual products, that's going to change a little over time. That's going to be context specific. If we can identify what the quality is, or what it is that we are doing, we can identify why we're doing it and who we're doing it for, that will give us a framework that we can use to define what our quality measure is. Okay, does that make sense? All my ramblings in there, I hope that kind of answers that. Janet, if you can chime in on the chat, that would be awesome. If I covered that adequately for you. Otherwise, I'm more than happy to engage. It helps. Okay.
All right.
Okay. I'll put my ASQ hat. Oh, can I answer the second part?
Oh.
Product quality
Wait,
and process quality. Oh, I
part.
didn't. You're right. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay, process quality. That is an interesting thing. That's where we get into questions around the difference between well, it's not really a difference. It comes into the idea of inspections. We're inspecting how do we do things. If you say up front, this is the work that we're going to do. This is the process model we are going to follow. You get an inspection or an audit. I prefer that they're different things, but if you look at them as an audit being, did we do what we said we're going to do? An inspection is more like a test saying, you said you were going to do this, you were not doing this. Why are you not doing this? You should be doing this. And that is a little bit harder to convey. An audit will come in and say, these are the things you said you were going to do. We see no evidence of you doing them. Are you doing them or not? And so those two ideas, I think, are challenging for a lot of people. And the question then becomes, how do we make sure that what we have is right? Okay, there. I'm trying to there. So that what we're looking at is the questions of process. Are we following a process model correctly? Begs the question, is this the right process model? Is this the right way to do it? And I don't know if anybody, that there's a lot of people with stuff out there. I don't know if anybody's got a definitive work when it comes to software design to say this is the appropriate process model. Having said that, some of the aspects of the early lightweight software development stuff, the XP, Scrum, Kanban, those concepts are intended to address that and to be flexible within that. Most people don't really wrap up that well. Because most people don't get it. They want it to be a fixed, this is what we're going to do.
Pete, just one question, because I think the question is pretty great and pretty massive. I was wondering if Janet would be up for having a round table. So if we could just join or ask Janet if she wants to join on stage and ask her questions, and we could discuss, if that's okay. Because Crowdcast offers the opportunity to have 4 people on stage discussing. So if Janet would be would be up for it, we could do that. Just an idea. I'm not sure. I think Pepe just asked the same.
Yeah.
To discuss the topic and set up 2 or 3 of you on stage. Yeah.
As long as I'm not on video.
Yeah, it's true. It's just in the morning. Yeah, and Huib is also saying something. But yeah, actually, Janet, if you want to join, you can. But we can. You can just toggle your video, so we'll just listen to your voice. Let's see what she's saying. And Huib, do you want to come up as well? You're pretty. Okay. Well, you know what? I'm just going to invite Janet and Lisa and see if they want to come up. But I don't want to push them into it. So just let us know if you want to. Sounds good. Okay. So Janet's okay with it. So I'm just going to invite her in, and we'll say hi, just by voice, of course. Okay. So Janet. Where she goes. Okay, she's invited.
Okay.
All right. Okay. She said also she can come, but she needs a headset.
Yep. Okay, so is
Janet,
are you coming in?
Who?
Is Huib coming in? Because
I'm not sure. He says sure. Okay.
Okay, because he made a comment in the chat, which I think is really important. Yeah. And a singular process model that works for everybody, you're right, I don't think it exists. It's kind of like having a singular, this is the way that we do software testing. We can talk about that kind of stuff, but quit pointing out the obvious. He made a comment, quality products, quality processes, and quality people. Yes. And I think the challenge is that most people ignore people and look and focus only on the process. They try and make it a cookie cutter. Okay, I'm kind of looking.
They're all connecting right now. I see them doing stuff. Oh, there we have one. Who is it? Who is it?
Myself.
Oh, it's look at us. We're the 3 pretty people with glasses.
I can take them off.
Oh, there.
No. Come on. I look like, no way.
Now I can't read the chat.
Nice that you're here.
Thank you for inviting me.
Uh-oh. Janet said she couldn't connect. Okay, weather update. It is currently, let's see, it is not quite 10 a.m. in the morning here. It is doing some sloppy conversion. It is a nice, comfortable 27 degrees here. It's supposed to get up to about 31, 32.
Janet has a problem with connecting, so maybe I'll just re-invite her, and Huib can make a point again what you just said in the chat.
Yeah, you can hear me?
I can hear you. I can also see you.
Awesome. So what I was saying is I heard some discussion on a process model, and I think that a model is great to start with, but it all comes down to good thinking about what's the problem, how are we going to deal with it. And I never seen any team adapt a model in full. They always adapt it to fit their purpose and to fit the people. And I think, to come back to the role of testing, I think that's what teams should do as well. If it's a role, then it's a role. And if it's not a role, then it's not a role. I personally don't really care. You have to do what works and experiment and find out what works for a team.
Okay, so we can violently agree on that. If I was if I said if in any way I implied that the process model was going to save you, that was not what I meant to do.
Hi, Janet.
Hi. I know you better than that, Pete. So I'm absolutely sure you wouldn't. But
am I still there?
Yeah,
I see you, Janet.
We can hear you.
I see your avatar, Janet.
Perfect.
Hi, Janet.
Hi. Good morning.
Good morning.
And I agree with you that there is not one process model that'll fit everybody. Absolutely.
Now, where I would make the distinction is if you've got a process model that the team agrees to, and I realize this is going to change project by project and sometimes sprint by sprint as it adapts. That's the whole point of adaptability, right? But how do you have a quality process model? What if you're looking at process quality?
So question back to you. Do you have to have a specific process quality model, or can you build quality into the process?
Nice.
Oh, this would be an excellent discussion.
Yeah.
Gee, how long can we go with this? You know?
I think we can stream for 6 hours.
I have 3 more hours.
I have nothing else to do today except go over and help at my mother's. You can build a process model. You can build quality into the process model. How do you know that you've done that? I think that's the first question. Oh, well, thanks, Pepe.
The thing that I see in many teams is that quality is always implicit on the table. And I'm a tester and I'm an agile coach, and combining these two roles makes it even more powerful because I get to talk to developers about, ask questions about how do you use tools like SonarQube and what do you do with the warnings that come from those tools? And as a tester, they would say that it's development stuff. Don't interfere with us. And now as an agile coach, I get to ask those questions. And by making them aware of what I think quality is, and quality is not buying a car which is a Ferrari. It can be a Mini, and a very old Mini, as long as it fits your purpose and it fits your budget and it solves your problem. Then it's a quality car. And many people think as soon as I start talking about quality, it's like, yeah, that's the tester and he wants to find every bug. No, I don't want to find every bug. I want to find problems that matter.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Janet.
I was just going to say, and that's where I think the line crosses. So process quality, right, is how well do we do whatever process we've chosen. Product quality, how does the process quality actually affect what we put out at the end? So there's a crossover, but I think they are separate entities. Because we can measure the process really, really well, and we can have an awesome process, but we still haven't met the customer's needs with whatever it is we're putting out.
Exactly.
Did that sound really brilliant for not even finishing my first cup of coffee yet?
Congratulations. That was good.
But I think bad processes almost never deliver good products. So they interfere.
Yes.
And it's not only the process. I think it's even more the people in the process who do the process. I think if you put like 10 brilliant people in a room and you ask them like, build a product, they will invent their own process that works for them, even if they haven't heard of Scrum or Kanban or whatever model there's out there. They will invent something that will probably resembles that.
Okay, I'm going to jump in and say and remind people. I was at an engagement, by the way. Hi, Linda. Linda and I were working at an engagement together about a year ago, and there was one guy in one team that was going, well, yeah, but you're doing all this agile stuff, and that's all software. We're not doing software, we're doing automotive stuff. And it's like, let's talk about where XP came from. Let's talk about where these ideas came from. And the simple fact of the matter is, it came from Chrysler Corporation. They were working on a problem. The models that they were supposed to follow didn't help. And what you're describing, Huib, is precisely that. When you've got a process that's in place that says this is how you do things, most people that want to get it done are either going to find something that works for them, and that probably means make something new, or they ignore what's going on and they're not going to worry about what they call it. Before XP became XP, it was this cool thing that we're trying. I mean, I've forgotten the magazine where that listed Scrum. Where Scrum got its name, it was because of a picture that was included, and it actually showed a rugby scrum pulling together, right? And that's kind of where the name came from. And a lot of, yes, I need one too, Huib. And so it doesn't matter if you're coming up with a solution. It doesn't matter what you're doing. I mean, like some of you were at the talk I gave at Agile Testing Days a few years ago about how I got into exploratory testing. I was doing this stuff, and then 2 years later, I realized there's a name for this. Somebody named it. Cool. I realize that it's not a process, but the idea is, that's what I'm trying to say, though, is that there's people are going to come up with stuff that works for them.
Oh, but Lisa said something interesting, because I see teams say that, but we do Scrum, and then I say, okay, how do you do it? And last Agile Testing Days, I had an epiphany talking to many people it's not that we're doing it wrong. It's that we are not specific enough about how we want to do stuff. And the gray area in between what you're doing and I'm doing, and we're not getting specific about, is where it goes wrong. Because we get irritated or stuff falls off the table or whatever. So we need to be more specific about, okay, we're doing Scrum. Awesome. How are we doing Scrum?
Yes, let's discuss the model of Scrum that we are going to use. And I think, Janet, that gets back to your question about process quality.
Yeah. In what way? What do you mean?
If the three of us are working on a team,
yes,
on a project, and it's like, okay, we're going to do Scrum. If we don't have that level of finesse that Huib was just describing, if we're not all in agreement how the things work, how we're going to approach things, we're going to have three different takeaways. We're going to have three different views about what we're supposed to be doing.
Absolutely. It's a team thing, right? That's what we keep talking about, the whole team. You have to agree what it is.
It's
sure.
Always a team thing. And I can safely say that because it's always a people thing.
Okay. Yes.
And
sounds
that's
like
why,
a title for a talk, by the way. It's always
it's a team thing, but that's why I think, and don't get me wrong, I'm not here to insult anybody, but
Oh, come on, you can
I
insult me.
see. No.
Oh no.
No, but I'm gonna put it a little bit black and white to make it clear. I see so many people working with methodical things. They're trying to implement methods instead of using a method as a heuristic and put some great thinking over it and teamwork. Like, hey, is this really working? Cool. Or nah, it's not really working. Let's generate some ideas to make it better. And
adapt and adjust, right?
yeah, but and exactly, and that needs good thinking of the whole team. So as long as the team collaborating and not cutting each other off, I see sometimes retrospectives and people say, no, that's not how it should be, and it's like, okay, awesome. Give us an alternative and let's elaborate on that. And the more options we create with each other, the more stuff we have to pick from, and there will always be a better solution amongst that. And that's sometimes it's like, why are we just trying to implement a process instead of doing our work? And oh yeah, we need a process for that.
I have an answer to that. Because processes are easy to understand. And
exactly.
Somebody is selling it.
Exactly.
And so then you get Linda's comment in the thread about a dogmatic structured comment. Or dogmatic structured approach that must be implemented across every team the same way. It never works. I've never seen that work.
But now you say something very important. It's easy to understand because the business we're in, working with people, creating software, all the technological challenges we have, and understanding our customers' business, that's so complex. It is difficult.
It is difficult. And being able to grasp that and express that is hard. But doing so, that is the essence of the talk that I was giving. That's really where testers can show their value, because they can have deep understanding of everything and express it in terms that people will understand.
Yes, I fully agree.
And I really wish I had said that in the talk instead of now.
Well, you've said it. You've saved yourself.
And now you're on record of saying it. So there it is.
Right. We can see you.
Okay, so I'm going to change the slide deck and add that.
Thank you for answering that very long question and having this discussion, because it is a very long, it's a huge discussion, right? It just is.
Yeah.
And one every team should have. And I think that's what's lacking in many teams. They don't have the discussion either about their process or about their product quality.
Well, I would tend to agree. And I got a question asked over LinkedIn of all places saying, hi, I've been reading your stuff, but you keep talking about testing and QA and quality as if they're interchangeable. And it's like, no, they're related, but they're not the same. But then, of course, I sent her a link and said, here's the crux of my thoughts, and boom, because it was going to be too long of a discussion to be in a LinkedIn chat. But a lot of people conflate the terms. A lot of people will use them as if they're all the same.
Unfortunately.
And I get beat up by people sometimes saying, but you don't understand, you don't understand testing. It's like, well, maybe. You don't understand quality. Well, maybe. But I understand the context that I'm working in, and I'm understanding the teams that I'm trying to support.
You don't understand their paradigm of testing. That's what they're just saying, right?
Yes, precisely.
And that's why in every company I walk in, I have a specific paradigm of what I think testing should be or is. And that's why the first thing I ask the team is, tell me what is testing. And they look at me like, but you're the guru. I said, sure, but I know what I think, but I want to know what you, how you define testing. How do you think of quality and stuff like that? And we have to discuss that. And we have to become pretty specific about it, because if not, we're getting nowhere. We're just getting misunderstanding.
Exactly.
And there's so much misunderstanding in these teams that they don't even know of, they're not aware of. And that's where we come in.
Yep. It's alignment. They don't have alignment, right?
Exactly. And it's sad.
And that's why we're doing this, and that's why we're doing conferences, and that's why you people are talking, and you should keep talking and writing and saying things over and over again. Although it might feel repetitive sometimes, but it is so important. And yeah, I think thanks for making these points. I think that was really cool to have you here, the four of you, or just not me. Actually, I'm Janet right now.
You're in the middle. You're in the middle of it all.
I'm just your avatar for today.
Yes.
So I think that was a cool discussion, and
Okay.
I don't want to really use the 6-hour streaming time.
No. I need another cup of coffee.
Yeah. But we
See,
should.
I came prepared.
Oh yes, you did. Perfect. But
And here's the empty one.
Oh, the what? You have two? All right.
And here's the backup.
Okay.
Ah.
I don't know. I don't want to know what's in it.
Okay. It's early here. It's not as early as it is for Janet, but it's early here.
I think part of this discussion, or some questions, probably will be answered next time in the webinar with Janet and Lisa. I know that they touch base on these questions a lot, and I'm really looking forward to it. So people, if you are interested, June 30th is the date. It's a Tuesday, probably going to be 4 p.m., so 1 hour later. But you all will know. We will definitely say something about it on social. So maybe we can discuss like this. So when Huib is coming back, and Pete, we will all be here again, talking about almost the same. And so thanks for everyone who was here. And again, I want to give you a quick reminder that on the bottom down there, you see a little button where you get to our Agile Testing Days site. You can check out our online event we just created. If you can't be there in person, you can be there online. That would be great. We are working hard to make it an awesome event, so it would be great to see you all there in person or online. So people, thanks again. Pete, thanks again for being here and for being crushed by 3 people at the same time.
Hey, I'm kind of going, this was fun.
Okay, cool. Then I hope to see you back next time. And
Yep.
Janet, thank you so much. Have a nice cup of coffee now, and Huib, continue being wonderful, and then we'll see you next time.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks. Thank you, Pete.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Janet.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.